In this video I'm going to show you how to make the Pinecone Scroll. This is not an easy motif, this is a bit of a challenge. When I made this I made several mistakes, so I'm going to correct those and show you where I went wrong. This particular motif is done over 8 strands of cord, and there's a double ring that you make separately on the same cord. What I did wrong with this one was I added a few single crochet when I was returning, so I had more single crochet to work these feathers off, and as a result I had more of these. In the original pattern, when I look at the photograph, there's about 30, and on mine there's over 45, so maybe that's why it won't lie flat and why the curve is not right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you step by step how to make it. So I've prepared 4 strands of cord of about 2 meters. So now I'm going to have to fold that again in half, and what I'm going to do is make sure that the double loop will come lower than the end with the loop and the 2 ends. The reason I'm doing that is because it's going to be easier to extend the cord. You are going to need a lot of cord for this project, and 1 meter will most probably not be enough. But rather than work with yards and yards of thread that can get tangled up and get into a mess, you're better off extending the cord when you need to and working with a smaller length. So what I do, I take the cord, and you can either put a clip in it or do what I do, I just make a little knot. That way it stays tidy. I'm going to be using number 60 thread and a 0.75mm hook. I make a starting loop. I insert the hook between the strands of the cord, make a slip stitch, and now I make 127 single crochet over the cord. So while you're working, make sure that all the strands of the cord are smooth, and occasionally you might have to adjust your stitches over the cord. So here I have my 127 single crochet, and I made 1 chain where the 22 last stitches are, because that's where we're going to form a ring. So now what you need to do is make a nice curve. So as you can see, there's one little notch where the 22nd stitch is, so it makes it easier to find. So put a single crochet in there and make sure the ring is nicely shaped. We're going to drop the cord now, chain 3, turn the work and make a double crochet in the first stitch, chain 1, and now make double crochet chain 1 in every stitch of the ring. When you've done the ring, make double crochet chain 1 but skip 1 stitch on the row below. So you're going to make double crochet chain 1 in each stitch of the ring and make double crochet chain 1, skip 1 stitch on the row below. Do this until you have 63 double crochet. So here's the double crochet chain 1 done, and now we're going to have to work back, and what we're going to do is make 2 single crochet on each 1 chain space. This is where I made the mistake in my original one, because I felt that the chain space wasn't covered well enough, so I did 3 instead, so I ended up with more stitches on that row, and as a consequence I ended up with more of these feathers on the edges. So we go back now and we do 2 single crochet over the 1 cord space, and when you're at the end you do an extra single crochet over the 3 chain space near the cord. So that's the 3rd row done, and now comes the tricky bit. We're going to have to make a ring over 16 strands of thread, and the way you do that, if you really struggle, you could always make a separate ring, but the way I do it, I put the thread that way, so I put the thread around the curve that way, because this is the way we're going to continue the work, so we're going to be going that way. So I find it easier, because if I turn it this way, the cord has to make a very sharp angle to go back that way. So what I do, I take the cord, I give it a gentle twist, because I find it more manageable then. Turn it once, this is a tricky bit, because you don't want to make it too loose. That's 1 time. So once you've got it where it overlaps like that, you can start making the ring, because it's still possible to tighten it. If you wrap it twice and then tighten it, you might find that it won't tighten properly and you'll have bits sticking out. So as you can see, I basically formed it into a loop, and now I can crochet over 16 threads. Once I've done about a quarter, I'll start tightening it. It doesn't matter how many single crochet you put on the ring, but you do want it to look well covered. So here I've got a good bit done, and what I'm going to do is tighten all the strands, and I might have to do that for each individual thread. So as you can see now, I can continue and complete the ring. When you're going to do something like this, you need a bit of patience and forbearance, because it isn't easy. Now I'm halfway more or less round. I'm going to secure the ring to the bottom layer. So I'm just going to make a little slip stitch there to secure it. And now I can continue round. It's also very important, I forgot to mention that, to make sure you're working on the right side of the project. So this is the right side, that's the wrong side. So you could have made the ring here, but you need to make it on the right side. So now this is a little bit more tricky again, because you're going to have to go under the thread and then under the thread in the ring. So now we can go on, take the cord along here, put a few extra stitches on the cord, and we can start there. So I'm just going to show you how I join up. I'm just going to put a few extra stitches on the cord alone. So this is what we've got. You can see now I can start 3 single crochet into the ring on the previous row. Now I'm going to do 15 single crochet over the cord alone. Now I work back along and I crochet 15 again in the back of the loops. Now make 2 single crochet into the previous row, turn the work and make, you skip the 2 at the base that are on the previous row, and make 10 single crochet in the back loops of the first feather. Adjust the cord again. It's important to keep the cord quite tight, because otherwise there'll be bulges. 5 on the cord alone, and then you go back again and go back over the back loops again, and then again 2 in the ring, and you work your way around. While you're going round the ring, you keep the 5 on the cord alone. As you get to the straight bit, you make less, you make more over the previous one. So instead of having 5 on the cord alone, you'll have maybe 3 on the cord alone. So you're going to make the tip bits tighter when you're along here. And another thing is, as you're approaching the end, instead of making 15, you start diminishing. So once you get to about here, you start doing 14, and then once you get here, you start doing 13, 12, 11. So as you approach this bit here, you're going to make these feathers narrower, and also you're going to make them on this bit with less of a gap at the tip. I'll carry on working and then I'll show you what I mean. This is one of the more difficult motifs you can make. A lot of people simplify them because they are so complicated, So basically they would just make the ring and then just adapt it to make it slightly easier. This is the scroll finished. This was my first one and this is the second one, and as you can see it falls much better, and I haven't got this problem with too many little feathers or leaflets. But the pattern in the book, the way it's described, is wrong, and if you follow the pattern you'll end up with something like this or worse. So I did the maths, and as on the third row you're putting 2 single crochet over 63 double crochet chain 1, you're going to end up with 126 stitches on that row. Yet in the pattern they tell you to only use 2 stitches on the scroll, and they don't say anything about skipping stitches. So I figured out that you need to either skip 2 stitches between each feather, or else you need to use 4 single crochet on the previous row rather than 2. This particular scroll came out of the book from the Manchester School. It's the second Irish crochet lace book, and it's got some very lovely motifs, and I'll be making some more out of that book. I hope this helps. I know a few people have had problems making this, and it is possible to simplify it. So if you can't manage the second ring, you can always make a second ring separately and stitch it on. When I went round, I varied the amount of single crochet I put on this third row. So at the beginning I was faithfully doing the 2 single crochet onto the scroll after each feather, but when I realized that it wouldn't work, I started doing 4 or 3, and I varied it between 3, 4 and 2 to get the curve. So where it's a matter of experience and it's a matter of trying things out to see what works and what doesn't work, but I'm really pleased with the way this one came out.